This is probably a bad idea.
Invisible, oh yeah, it's invisible, that's my artwork. You don't appreciate me.
I'm Andrew Johnson, and today I'm going to be talking about the benefits and cost of a reclusive lifestyle. Now, a recluse is somebody that lives alone, works alone, eats alone, stays away from other people. A recluse is a bit different from a hermit that retires from society for religious or philosophical reasons. A recluse lives a secluded and solitary life. Reclusiveness can also be associated with social withdrawal that is related to social anxiety, personality disorders, obsessive compulsive disorder, PTSD, major depressive disorder, and things like that. So it can be a symptom of an underlying condition that needs professional help. At the same time, introversion isn't necessarily damaging. For myself, personally, like many people, I've been living a life of solitude since the year 2020. Now in the year 2024, my case never returned to how it was previously. I think what happened and led to myself living a reclusive lifestyle. I don't know if I like this shot. Oh well. I think it was a variety of factors that led to this, and I wanted to create space for my art. And I did that at a cost. It's sort of this push and pull that I think creatives have, wanting to be with your creativity as well as almost disregarding just living a normal, ordinary, average, regular kind of life. It really didn't come easy. I had to fight for peace for myself just to get things I wanted to do creatively done. You know, after about 4 or 5 years of doing that, I sacrificed not only my social life, a lot of other areas in my life too. In my situation, it's probably fair to consider the mental health profile and really evaluating whether or not this was done with the best judgment. So I've often talked about mental health on my channel and tied it in with my creativity. I don't think I really need to delve into all of the specifics on my mental health profile right now. I do have, well, might as well say that at least, I do have anxiety and depression, and I am atypical in a sense because I'm aware that I have mental health problems. And so therefore it's like, well, you should be able to then get better, improve, and, you know, manage yourself better. But from my perspective, it's also that, but I'm aware that I'm having symptoms when I'm having them. I'm observing myself having symptoms, which I don't know what's worse, is not knowing that you're experiencing mental illness, or the actual horror of watching myself having an obsessive compulsive episode or a depressive episode, going through an addiction where it's sort of like something I would say is similar to somebody that has diabetes or epilepsy or maybe Tourette's syndrome or something to that effect, that it's like I kind of see it coming on. I'm aware that it's happening, but it's as if I can't control when the attacks happen. And so I just think that there's something that happens in my brain that I can't always control it. I manage it as best I can. And I don't really know, and neither do, or doesn't seem that there are experts or professionals that know all the answers in my case. I think I knew that once the events of 2020 kicked off, I thought that I had control over the situation. Certainly by the year 2021, I knew my therapy was being undone, that a lot of the work I put into trying to manage my symptoms, I was losing control. And I developed this sense that I should be able to do everything on my own. And I think my YouTube channel is, and my music, various places that I appear online, Facebook, Instagram, some of my TikTok, things like that, that I've shown what it looks like to do everything on your own. And the question really is, does it work? At this point in my life, I don't think it, I think it's an example actually of how it doesn't work. And I made a mistake for thinking that I should be on my own and handle everything, and socially withdrawing and forgetting the importance of my support system, and that if I didn't have any of the supports that I have now, I would have been in incredibly worse shape than I am today. I think sometimes when you go so far into a reclusive lifestyle, you very easily forget the importance of maintaining connection. Recent years have shown me that not only just me, but there was quite a palpable and observable collapse in the sense of community and people reaching out to each other in ways that made sense, and replacing human connection with really brief interactions online and thinking that's enough to last me for the month. Was to say a little hello in the chat and that should do me. I think as well it was so easy to just not follow through on some of the things that you know will be helpful, in terms of going out for that coffee, going for a walk, or finding something maybe even just once a week to sink your teeth into and do that thing. I know that I personally had a very difficult time when it came to following through on those things and trusting that those things would work, trusting that the help I was going to go after would actually help. For myself, I do like my alone time. As I'm going to get into this, hopefully I'm making sense, probably not. There are benefits to a reclusive lifestyle, but there's also an enormous cost, and I think I'm somebody that can attest to that. I'm a credit to the notion that really this idea of I am a lone wolf, but it can only go so far. I think that some idea that you can just be forever walking by yourself, that you can just escape into the wilderness somewhere and think that you're going to be able to survive as a human being. It doesn't work that way, because humans aren't built for that. We need to have some social connection, and I don't know where I went in my mind that in recent years I really thought I should just be completely secluded, isolated, and kept away from people for the rest of my life. I know my own mind, it's not healthy for me. I could see that the longer I was holding on to this totally secluded life, that I was actually losing my mind. And I don't think that it's fair to say I'm at fault for that. He wasn't being strong enough to be on his own and doing everything on his own, left to his own devices. Well, he should have been man enough to do it all, and that should be a reasonable way to live. I think there's some balance to be found here. So first of all, let me talk about the actual benefits of a reclusive lifestyle that I found personally. So let's start with this. Number one, the best thing about living a reclusive lifestyle is that you don't have to deal with people and that you get to determine how much time you spend with people. And that probably made sense during the chaos that was happening. And that I think a lot of humans, a lot of people found they just didn't have the social energy to really be constantly looking at all the stuff that was going on day in, day out, hour by hour. So the reclusion was nice in a sense because you got to conserve your energy, and then when you felt you really needed it, although since 2020 I felt I haven't really had a lot of energy, honestly, as I'm sure there are other people as well, that it was just almost a complete diminishing of energy. It's just everything was kind of offset. The world was not right, or it wasn't sensible anymore. The idea of not having to deal with people, well, that was a desirable option. And in some ways, I don't fault anybody for feeling that in the 2020s. And that is one benefit. Let me add to that. That is a benefit in a time when things are higher risk, are more, or considered less safe. It was a dangerous time, and in ways, in the aftermath, it still is considered less of a safe environment, not only physically, but mentally, and spiritually, emotionally as well. The second benefit to a reclusive lifestyle is that, well, I'm on my own, so I get to decide what shape my environment is in. I get to determine what my living space looks like, and I don't have to worry about somebody else thinking that such and such is too clean, or it's not clean enough, or this is organized too much, it's not organized enough, etc., etc. I get to be on my own and decide what I want to live in, and I can develop my hobbies and different skills as I see fit. And hey, if I'm having a bad day and I want to leave some cutlery in the sink, and I don't think there's any reason that it can't just be there overnight after being rinsed, but I probably need to clean it, but I just don't feel like doing it right now. And that's okay, because eventually, well, my depressed mind doesn't want to do it, but later my obsessive compulsive mind will want to do it. But it's my own space, so I get to choose that. The third thing is I get to decide what I spend my money on. I don't have to worry about sharing subscriptions or services with somebody else. I personally, I don't have a car, so I don't have to worry about a lot of those expenses living on my own. I am just pulling out examples from my head at the moment. If I want to spend my money on a specific cleaning supply, or what am I saying, or type of brand or product, I get to do that. I don't answer to anybody about what I spend my money on, which is wonderful. I really don't have much more than very basic expenses to pay, and I try as well to declutter my life. I try to have limits on social media and texts and calls, even though probably I do that a little too much in some sense. But it's like I don't have anybody kind of hovering over me wondering what I'm doing with my money. And you know, it's just kind of nice to live on your own, and it's just, that's my business, and you know, that feels pretty good. Self-care, yes, self-care. That is a benefit to a reclusive life. Well, I think self-care is really a part-time job within itself. If you think of all the different things that you need to do on a daily basis just to take care of yourself, or just if I want to stay in my pajamas all day, then, well, I can do that. If I need that day to do that, I can have that. Or I can go out for walks whenever I want. Just anything that you can imagine that's a part of self-care and really spending the time to make sure that I do actually have a routine every day and I take care of the things that need to be taken care of. I think certainly for somebody like myself, I really do need to consider self-care, and I need to take time for mindfulness meditation, exercising in a moderate, reasonable way. I have to say it that way because for a person with my particular temperament and personality, I can get carried away with the exercise sometimes, so I think I need to keep it very either light or moderate. I think I've probably had just about every problem possible that there is known to mankind. I've had every kind of addiction you can possibly have, pretty much every kind of relationship failure you can have, types of anxiety and depression and all of that. Absolutely, self-care is something that needs to be emphasized, underlined, to make sure that I'm not falling into those sinkholes, because as much as I have over the years, it could have been 10 times worse, really, if I wasn't still, and I always said, whether my family believes me or not, whether my friends, kind of distant friends at the moment, or whether my network or audience here believes me or not, I have made a point to practice self-care since everything was kicking off in the 2020s here. And I know that if I wasn't doing that, I would be, I don't know, I don't want to think about it. And in a sense, though, of course, self-care has limitations as well, because it is what it is, and it's not a replacement for things like talk therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, medication, rehabilitation treatment program, or stuff like that. You know, it's self-care is that thing that it does need to be practiced. Getting good sleep, food, though, I mean, there are times though that I do eat like crap, and I think we all do kind of have those moments. And sometimes that's part of self-care too, is also the, you know what, today there are times, even just with sleep as well, that I think sometimes part of self-care, well, if it makes you feel better in that moment, to stay up a little later than usual, and that's just something for you to find peace in your mind. Look, we all do that. I think that self-care is always a dance that you do with yourself. And as you relate to people in your relationships, it's always an ongoing practice and balance. Self-care is very, very much important to me. And I'm constantly needing to hold myself accountable and responsible for that, because I know those of us that deal with mental health, we are not good at taking care of ourselves. So yes, reclusion absolutely opens the door to, well, now you've got all this time and space to really look after yourself and get into good habits with that. And lastly, I'll say spiritual practice is a good thing out of a reclusive lifestyle. In the kind of hustle culture, overdose motivation, toxic positivity era that we are living in, that stuff doesn't always nourish humans in a spiritual capacity. So much focused on the doing and the work and that kind of thing. Finding solitude, it is important for people to really carve out that time and space for yourself. And I've found that yes, a reclusive lifestyle has afforded me the opportunity to find very deep spiritual practice. I mean, could you argue that you can find spiritual practice in just everyday life? Sure. I think though, in the history of humanity, spiritual practice is often associated with the hermit, which is a bit different from a recluse, but I think it is often, you kind of have to find space away from the culture and society in order to really go within. So I've found that to be absolutely a benefit of a reclusive lifestyle. Now, the bad stuff. I am working up a sweat here, by the way. So, look, I take medication that makes me excessively sweat. At this point, I don't really care. I know I'm sweating. I sweat, I'm on medication that makes me sweat. Okay. So yeah, the bad stuff is when you become addicted to solitude, which I think I have developed an addiction to solitude. When you are a recluse, it becomes habit forming to just socially withdraw, to avoid people. And then that confirms in your mind that people are untrustworthy. I don't want to be around so and so because they're gonna, from my assumption, they're gonna do X, Y, and Z, and that's why I should always just stay where I am, completely far away from the others who can never be trusted. And you basically de-socialize yourself so that when it comes time to need to do things like, I don't know, going to a social function, or maybe it is a job interview, maybe it is even performing, even like for me, it's at a certain point, you've de-socialized yourself, you think you can do it better, but once you've spent 5 years as a total recluse, and then you just expect yourself to just be able to socialize with everybody and be so eloquent and wonderful and mild-mannered and wonderful to everybody. Well, it doesn't always work. Well, it doesn't quite work like that. And I know for myself, I need to address my addiction to solitude, do a better job of finding at least something once a week, whether that's a call or just going out to something, so I can provide myself the opportunity to relearn some of the skills I lost. And that's something I don't like to admit that. Nobody likes to admit that. I had a lot better socialization skills in the 2010s. And then you look at me in the 2020s and it's like, who is this person? Yes, it's one of these things that I know it for myself, and I'm going to be doing a lot of talking about it, but I also know I need to start doing some action because it can get to be really, really bad. And that I know that I become very irritable because I'm experiencing sort of it's not really like this, but I'll say it so I make some sense out of this. It sort of feels like a withdrawal from solitude when I'm trying to just be out in public and stuff, and I can become very irritable and frustrated that I just want to go back to my cozy cocoon. But it's this weird thing where it's like, so does he want to be alone? Does he not want to be alone? And it's just the fact of the matter is it doesn't work. What I'm doing isn't working, and I'm aware that it's not working, and that this is going to be a very long road for me. And maybe I need to stop thinking about it in terms of what I've lost or that I need to get back to something. I need to think of some of the things I can start to gain and not comparing to other people, because that is really a nightmare in of itself. I think actually comparing myself to who I was before, that has gotten in the way, because anytime I fall short of who I was or thought I was before, then I become very down on myself, beating myself up that I'm not him anymore. So really this is an area that, yeah, there are steps I can take, and I hope anybody watching this, that you're watching this person that I know I'm eccentric, I'm an exotic person, but I know that if I can do this, and with everything that I've shared, if I can do any of this and I'm still living, which is a big thing in of itself, that know that there is hope and you're not alone, and that there are things that can help this, and there are helpers out there. And I didn't want to become completely jaded where I forgot that there was good people out there. And I know there are good people out there. But when you've dealt with things like trauma or a lot of an overwhelming amount of stress or pressure or really difficult circumstances, you start to paint humanity in the most horrific way possible. But I know rationally, I still know, and deep in my heart, I know there's good people out there. And that part of the problems I'm having is that people have been keeping their distance from me because they're scared of me. And that's my own doing. They are afraid of me. And they are afraid of making my situation worse. And they really don't know what to do. They don't know what to say. It's like at this point, it doesn't matter who wasn't meeting their obligations or their end of the bargain or their part of the contract, of the social contract. It doesn't matter at this point. It's just that I have to do the thing that's really difficult, is waking up every day and deciding on the things that I can do, and I need to take those steps. I don't think it is even useful very much anymore to compare the 2020s to the 2010s. It's like it's something completely different that humanity is in right now. So I don't know if any of that's even helpful or useful to anybody, but whether I've wanted to admit it or not, I am an addict. I do self-harm. I do self-sabotage. I am that kind of person that, I'm talking divorce before I'm even married. Just, that person's gonna leave me anyway, or I've already ruined this, so who cares about this, whatever that, anyways. So, but these are things these are my things I need to work on. And I'm not afraid to say it and have an open conversation that, I know I'm that way. I am a hot mess, and I've made a lot of mistakes in my life. And there is a part of me that's still very hopeful in being able to rise and to stand up and start to star in my life, be in my own life. Loneliness. Now, this is still probably worse than it was even 5 years ago when I was starting to talk about it, 5 or 6 years ago, the epidemic of loneliness. It is something where once it becomes suffering, that's something that you need help. You don't need to be listening to some guy on the internet talking about loneliness. You need help. You need to go to therapy, finding a therapist, perhaps medication might help you, a program, or taking the steps and the follow through, and that if something didn't work out, that doesn't mean that the whole thing is off the table. It means you need help still. Which even for me, I struggle with that too, of actually, yes, the help and support in recognizing my vulnerability, and that I have experienced loneliness and it has awful effects. And I think I need to stop thinking about it as a totally lost cause. I find for myself, when my depression starts talking, I start thinking, well, I've screwed up so much in relationships anyway, and the loneliness has probably already compromised my body in some way that it's sort of like, well, I'm already damaged anyway, so what's the use? I realize that's not a helpful thought. And there is this idea that I know I'm not alone in, of these kind of passive ideas of harm. Passive harm, or, wanting to escape your pain. And so it becomes a thing where you don't want the help because it's a refusal for help, because you think you're so far gone. And loneliness is such a difficult issue. There are parts of it that I think, some of it, an aspect you can argue is voluntary, and sometimes, as I was saying earlier about the benefits of living in solitude or a reclusive life, it's nice to be alone. And I think that it is, for the development of an individual, sometimes that's really important, to be alone and to see yourself walking through something difficult and you are on the other side. But there are parts of loneliness that are involuntary, and you can become somebody that is just feeling like you're watching life pass you by, especially if you're somebody that has dealt with bullying or ostracism, rejection, exclusion, discrimination, these types of things. It can be really complicated, and again, that's where the help and support comes in. And sometimes it may not even be in ways that you think it should be. Maybe it's not all to do with your doctor or your therapist, or maybe your friend circle that you have now. Maybe it is a tool you can use as a workshop that you go to on a weekend, or a community event, or something that you can do just to be able to have the experience of being around people. And so that you are partaking in activities. So you're not feeling that constant, I don't get to partake, I'm never invited, I'm never this, nobody wants me around, nobody likes me. I think sometimes there are outside of the box ideas really can help people dealing with loneliness. And it's something that I know is a possibility, yet I have not really followed through on what I'm talking about. But I'll get back to you once I do. But I'm pretty sure that there is some logic to what I'm saying here. And those are part of the things that help. Not cure, because I'm not somebody out here that thinks there's magic here exactly, or things that can happen overnight. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But we're talking about things that are baby steps, that are that few seconds of courage, those things you can do to calm down your nervous system. These types of things, the actual, the science that we know of in psychiatry, psychology, things that we know actually can make a difference, and not kind of magical thinking or kind of delusional narratives. I'm talking about actual things that can work to address the actual experience of loneliness. Because the real truth about loneliness is it is scary. There were times that I felt like I was almost dying. Whether that meant in my mind, probably not physically, but in a spiritual sense or emotional sense, I felt like dying. And that can be very scary to go through, especially a mental health episode, a depressive episode is very frightening to go through alone, and I've been through many of them alone. So no one wants to go through a health scare alone, and that's why it is so important to address loneliness. Because I think there are those of us that live with these types of issues that it often crosses your mind, what if nobody was here? What if I really didn't have the strength? No one's gonna find me in time if such and such, which I don't want to go any further into that discussion. But this is why, and what can help bring us down from the scariness of loneliness is that you have to have something that you're looking forward to, and that there is something else that's going to come. Maybe it isn't now, and maybe now sucks a lot, and that's valid, and it makes sense. Yeah, it can suck, but there is that part of you that knows there is going to be something that's going to come in and lighten this a little bit and see your way out of the darkness. And if there's anything I know about dealing with loneliness, it's that sticking to a routine, having a sense of grounding is really important. It's non-negotiable, and that I need to keep up with my therapy, medication, my doctor appointments, things like that, and that even if my social circle is small, well, that's okay. I still need to engage in my life, and I still need to try to go for a coffee with somebody or a walk with someone, even if it's an acquaintance or something. And even if I really had absolutely zero, nobody, then I would still have to say to myself, well, I don't know, get in contact with some kind of a social worker that's probably really more meant for people that are immobilized in some way or really debilitated. But even still, I would still need to, well, ask if somebody can come and see you, anything. I don't know exactly all of the answers, but I'm trying to say, I know that the reclusive lifestyle certainly can lend itself to experiences of loneliness. If you're already somebody that's vulnerable and dealing with such things, it can really become an absolute sinkhole and nightmare. So it is an absolute bad side to it, because even when you're not trying, that thing can suck you in. And that leads me into the next point, which is another bad thing about living a reclusive lifestyle, is overthinking. Now, I'm somebody that likes to think. I enjoy thinking. At the same time, there's the flip side of that coin where you just can get in your head and you're in a constant loop with yourself. Well, never mind that I am obsessive compulsive, but I think just for anybody that's living in a total isolation and seclusion, the brain just naturally starts to come up with stuff, giving negative thought forms more attention than what you would otherwise. You don't have someone else to bounce stuff off of. So, it's like this sort of, it's this sort of, what am I trying? So yes, it's sort of this feedback from yourself all the time. And that can be very dangerous because it's just brain activity, and you just can get into rumination and obsessing about things that you probably wouldn't otherwise. I think that that's just a very natural thing, that if you were to place any being on this planet in total seclusion, I think you do eventually just kind of start going insane. I don't have any other term for it. I was trying to think of a nice way to put that, but no, you start to slowly go insane. I believe there probably are studies that prove that, and reports. You just can't be completely alone because the brain, something happens and you just start to overdo it in your mind. And it's not to say that experience isn't, that there are experiences of anxiety or depression that are real. What I'm saying is, at the same time, it can get into a very scary place. It's part of the bad stuff of living a reclusive lifestyle. Finances. So in the portion where I was talking about the good stuff, well, the flip side is that financially it can be very, very difficult to live a reclusive lifestyle. Manufacturing plants do not always produce items for single people. There are events and services that do not cater to single people. I'm sure if you've made it this far into this video, you're smart enough probably to know what I'm saying, that financially it's really difficult for single people. Having the choice is nice, but then you don't really have anyone to share products that you're buying with. I find I end up throwing out food because it goes bad because I can't eat all of that. So you kind of feel like you're wasting money in a sense because you can't always buy just individually packed things. So unless you've got a really good income or you are really content living very minimally and simply, I just think you can certainly come into problems there. And that again, it comes to this thing of trying to do everything on your own. So yeah, it can be financially difficult because trying to do everything just, by yourself, well, you may not get all the same opportunities as other people. And so life just doesn't make any sense. So yeah, I mean, the bad side, absolutely, financially, things can become really complicated. And you can start to withdraw from other people because you may not actually be happy with your financial situation or your work situation. So you start you avoid people because you don't want anybody to judge you about how your stuff is going. So there's just all these layers of things that, once again, it's really not sustainable to just completely be by yourself at all times and expected to just function in society like that. Okay, the last thing I'm going to say that's the bad stuff about living a reclusive lifestyle, not that it really matters that much, but it does come with the territory, is that others can have a negative perception of you. Other people can observe a recluse as being very cold or standoffish. Nothing's ever good enough for them. They think that nobody does anything right, so they're just going to be off completely on their own over there. They're being judgmental about everybody else. Or you're thought to be a complete Looney Tunes or weird person. So it's really a vicious cycle. That it is a bad side of reclusion, and that I end up within the past 4 or 5 years of being so much into this, I actually started to play into it. I played into the perception of me as being this really weird guy. Let me just start to do weird things. If everybody thinks I'm weird, I'm gonna sing this weird song if you think I'm so weird. Or I'll do this video. Like even this is kind of weird, isn't it? Well, you already think of me like that. So, and then it's a cycle. It just plays off of itself, feeds on itself. So really, I guess what I'm saying here is a warning, is caution. Please, if you're thinking of being a recluse and yearning for it, just know that it comes with this, of being thought of as all of these negative things, and then it becomes really difficult to just get out of that and to rehabilitate your public image or your social image or your ability to reinvent yourself. It's like once you have gone so far into the reclusive lifestyle and you've sort of been labeled this person always doing stuff on their own, it becomes a stain on your life. And then you really do become that which actually you don't like. Because I don't like a lot of this stuff about other people. I don't think I'm a judgmental person. But then let's think about that for a sec. Well, am I not actually being really judgmental? Because I'm assuming everybody's just so horrible, right? People are so awful all the time. They're always going to disappoint you. And then I go through these things where I wonder, why am I single? Why doesn't anybody invite me anywhere? Well, I've just insulted everybody over and over again, and then wonder. So you have to know that part of the reclusive lifestyle is ending up with this negative perception and labels assigned to you that you may not necessarily want, and it just kind of comes with it. And it can be very difficult to then, break out of, once somebody's made a first impression of you, it's very difficult to change their mind. I think you can in some cases, but as a general rule, once impressions have been made, it's kind of, that's it. Okay, final thoughts. Now, I just went to get something to eat, and I changed my shirt, and I was just looking at the rushes of this picture that I'm making, and I thought, I don't like that background at all, so I'm back here, and I'm just going to finish up this video. So all that to say, this is not a trial, nor is it boot camp. This is simply a discussion and just me sharing my experience and thoughts that I've had at this particular time about my reclusive lifestyle. Quite obviously, it has its advantages and disadvantages, and I know I'm not alone in this experience since 2020. I think it's also a matter of different strokes for different folks. Some of this is okay. I think that there's also areas where it can become unhealthy. And I'll say for myself, I've had better luck having conversations with people who get it, people who understand the difficulty. Even when I have been actively searching for friends or dates or networking, whatever it is, I was always drawn to people that were potentially more introverted or ambivert, or similar to me in a sense that people that can keep to themselves and have small gatherings. So if you're watching this and thinking, I need to be like this really outgoing, confident person, and I need to find people that are very extroverted and gregarious and feed off of that energy, you don't have to do it like that. It's just the things that are going to work for you. And I can't say I have all the answers, and I'm still working on trying to be in a better place with all of this kind of stuff. I want to keep an open mind that, maybe there are extroverted people I could get along with too, it can be lonely in crowds as well. So, you never really know. When looking at all of this, you really can't judge a book by its cover. And I think really just my point is that I know living a reclusive lifestyle, there's an aspect of it where, well, of course, you still need to make connection. You still need to keep some connection, and maybe it's not always going to be the genuine, authentic connections that, I would like, or I guess it's a fantasy. I fantasize about, nothing's good enough unless if it's, it's also okay if it's a variety of different people that you might meet. Some of it might only be just acquaintance-based, and maybe it only lasts for a few weeks or something, but that was okay for that time. I think, though, that, I've been drawn to people that I think the herd, so to speak, would overlook that person. I think those are generally people that I end up being drawn towards anyways. But the point is, I need to do a better job of maintaining those connections, because I haven't been doing it. And so if you are a recluse or in similar circumstances as myself, I think in most capacities it does make sense to find other recluses or introverted people that you might be able to have an outing with or something like that. Or if you are dealing with mental illness or something, sometimes it does help to find those groups or communities that understand what you're saying and you don't feel you have to explain anything. Perhaps it is to do with your own personal identity as your ethnic heritage or racial heritage, or perhaps sexual orientation, LGBTQ plus, etc. Well, then, seek out those things that can help you feel connected to something. I think what this is really about is still keeping to a sense of curiosity and wonder. I don't know if you get anything from this. Hopefully it's still a sense of having fun too, because I lost a sense of having fun because I was so far into the reclusive lifestyle. I would like to have good memories too from the 2020s, and I would like to have fun, doing things outside of this seclusion and isolation all the time. It's like, I think as humans, we do forget to have fun. Have fun going from diaper to diaper. Okay, so with everything that I have shared and have been through in my life, like I've been through things that, well, I can say with confidence, yes, I think if your average person went through the things I've dealt with, I think anybody would have been driven absolutely to the edge, dealing with the things I've dealt with from my youth, adulthood, and yes, it's been very difficult, but I have not lost all hope. With all of my problems and awkwardness and everything, really an unsuccessful career as well. I mean, I'm still trying to accept the fact and just let go of so much of what my life was previously. And I held on to so much of that for a very long time. I was supposed to be Andrew the actor, or I was supposed to be Andrew video editor or writer, or Andrew the music artist, and that was supposed to be something more than what it is. Well, a lot of that stuff, well, it didn't. And that's okay. So now, with that, now what are we going to do? I think it is a non-linear process that I'm on, and am showing that I'm continuing on this path to the best that I can, with really just, I think if you were to look at my life, I think there is a lot of tragedy and disappointments and awful things that have happened in my life, and it is very difficult to keep on and carry on. I'm still trying with all of this. I have not completely given up. Sometimes people just know from a very early age what they want to do in life and stuff, and that stuff kind of falls into place and it works. And I think my experience isn't really common, in that so much of my life hasn't worked, and I've constantly had to redefine myself just because so many things didn't work. And it's a horrendous experience. It's something that I think is a very millennial experience, of wanting to have things turn out a certain way, and previous generations they thought, well, I just work hard and I want to do this and I go into this and that's my career forever, and these are my friends that I know forever, and that's the way that is. It didn't work like that for me. It's a very, being a millennial, I think, actually is a very disorienting experience. It is just, you're chasing after things that don't work out, and you're supposed to just continue to go after things that probably won't work out, and that's just kind of your life. essentially. And it is distressing. I do think there's a lot of millennials that need a lot of help right now, and younger generations as well, because things are not working the way that they have historically during this kind of transitory, strange time we're in currently. Okay, and there's so much more I would love to say here, but I know I'm going way over time and talking a lot of nonsense and babbling at this point. My tangential ranting stuff that I tend to do now because of my reclusive lifestyle. So there you have it. Okay, I'm probably going to regret this, but you know what? It's like I have nothing else to lose at this point. I've lost so many things. I'm already at a point where it's like I may even just say goodbye to the music. The last thing I was holding on to. I might just say goodbye to the music then too, because but I really don't know what is going to become of me at this point. I have no idea. Anything I was familiar with before is not now. I'm on the last kind of chapter of whatever my life was before, and I'm changing into something else. Maybe it isn't particularly desirable or extraordinary or wonderful, but this is my life. So I hope somebody got something out of this. Yes, this stuff is really difficult. It is challenging. And there still is light at the end of the tunnel. And it may not be anything like what you expect it to be. So thank you for listening. I'm not going to ask you to subscribe and like and whatever, because it really doesn't matter that much. And how do you even respond to anything like this, or like anything like this, or share this? I am somebody that you take a few things that resonate with you, and that's fine. And I'm just doing this because I like to do this. So take care, be well, bye for now.